everyone, welcome to LexTalk World Talk Show presented by Clickaway Creators. Today we have Nishtha Sikroria with us. Nishtha has over 10 years of strong work experience in dealing with corporate commercial matters. And after completing her master in business law from National Law School of India, she went to practice with various law firms as well as some well-established media houses, where she focused and acquired specialized skill set on both litigation and contractual side in corporate commercial matters. And now, without further ado, let's dive into more about her. So, hi Nishtha, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, how are you? And thank you for such
I'm
an
doing great, and
illustrious introduction. Thank you so much.
no, I mean, pleasure is all ours. And yeah, really, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
So now, Nishtha, I would, start this by asking you a really general question. So, what actually made you to pursue law in the very first place, and how has the journey been so far?
Okay, so might sound very cliche, honestly, out of a book story, I would say. So just to give you a brief background, I am a first generation lawyer in the family. There is nobody in the family who has pursued law or been associated with law whatsoever. So my interest, or the credit I would give to pursuing law is, I don't know if you have seen or if you have come across this TV show called The Practice. So it was an American drama which revolved around more on litigation and practice, and uh, and that's how I think somewhere down the line the likeness or towards the profession started, and it just grew somewhere down the line since school, and that's how law happened for me. It's just the calling that happened by default. I do give it credit. I have to give credit to something, so I'll give credit to that American drama series. But I think somewhere down the line, it was pretty clear for me to pursue law. And the journey has been uh, good. In fact, there are challenges, honestly, when you start from starting from bachelor's to masters. It's a tough road. They really make you. Uh, give you a hard time, honestly. If you now while speaking, I can go back to a memory lane and still think about as to the amount of effort that we have made to put in is difficult, and it's very rewarding. You don't realize it till the time you are out of from the law school and from the profession, and you have spent considerable amount of time in the profession. But the journey has been really, really great so far. I have been fortunate enough to be associated with law firms and have great mentors since the very internship till my present organization as well. You meet you meet people who are very well versed, or who have abundant amount of experience in the fraternity, and there is a lot to learn. So the journey has been to sum it up. The journey has been really, really rewarding so far. So that's how the transition happened.
So, thank you so much for guiding us through your journey. And now, how has the transition been from a law firm to corporate in-house counsel culture, starting from scratch as associate now being head of legal and business affairs in Indian territory?
Again, saying, and I will start. It's a very kind. I've been very fortunate enough to witness this journey. Honestly, I still remember when I started as as an intern with Mr. Ravi Sikri. I did my internship. Started my first internship with Mr. Sikri and Company, and that was the first litigation experience where we were thrown in court, like literally thrown, not literally, but then figuratively thrown in court, and were asked that what, go sit in courts and learn. And that's how, like, one day, one week, the first week, you don't realize that what is happening, and gradually you start to get that understanding that the learning process happens from sitting in court, and that's the maximum amount of learning that happens. Uh, to uh, then being able to join a law firm as an associate. So my career started with law firms, and trans I gradually transferred to in-house. It's been it So law firm culture is really, really different. As an associate, you are just in the law firm, like you are just in the law firm. You forget about everything. You don't you There is no personal life, honestly. And I think that you realize later on, when as to how what kind of growth you have when you put in that amount of hours, you put in that amount of dedication, or you have been made to put that amount of dedication, to put it on a lighter note. But it's been very rewarding, honestly. So yes, from my experience of the transition from law firm to in-house was a little challenging. Obviously, when you come from, it's there are two separate worlds altogether. uh, so when you come from a law firm culture to a in-house culture, you kind of feel that, you know what, where, like, how to go about it, because it's fairly new. You think that you have started from scratch again. But gradually get a understanding and a hang of it as to how a corporate world works. And I think for me, that law firm experience did a lot of gave me a lot of support, because you know the nitty gritties of how court works, what are the details involved as compared to, and put that knowledge to a in-house setup, because uh, that's a different ball game altogether. You interact with stakeholders, you tell them that, you know what, this is what it is. You get your practical experience and to the plate, and tell them that, you know what, this, and advise better to stakeholders. So it's been quite rewarding. The journey itself, from an associate, if I have to see, from an associate to a business head now, uh, it's a lot of responsibility, but happy to take it on. And it's a different kind of learning curve. Now you see that, you know what, you're a business head of Indian territory. uh, so the responsibility is more, your knowledge base has to be much more, you have to be on your toes at every time in terms of knowledge, you're reading and everything. So that responsibility just grows, and it's a lot of by default, I will not say pressure, but that zeal in by within you, that, you know what, you have to perform and you have to be on your toes every time, so that you provide the best kind of advice to the stakeholders today, whether it be Indian territory, or, you know what, you are negotiating with a party who is globally, who is interacting globally. That confidence, from, I think, is that throughout the journey has been, because that you I have seen both the worlds. So from litigation perspective, law firm perspective, to now corporate. So it's a very holistic journey to uh, honestly to move forward with somebody, and, you know what, that's how it is. So yeah, so I think that I was able to sum up with the transition, because the moment I start speaking about it, you start reliving the every bit and piece of the journey. So yeah, I think that's the transition has been. It's been fairly not stress, though there were portions there where you were extremely stressed out and burnt out, and you question everything, that, you know, whether I'm in the right industry or not. But then I think what you love, what you do, and you enjoy it. And I have enjoyed the process so far, and planning to enjoy it further as we move ahead.
No, I completely understand. I mean, the way that you told about transition, so I
Yeah.
can completely understand like how you must have the hardships that you actually went through, and now that you said that it's really rewarding, and I understand that it is because a lot of hard work and everything is gone into it. So yeah, now moving forward, I would like to ask you about a complex legal issue that you worked on and also describe the complexity and tell us how you approached it.
Okay, so I think one of those, there are many, but one that completely changed my perspective to how to approach a certain proposition or an issue while dealing a case, is when IBC was introduced, when Insolvency Bankruptcy Code was introduced in 2016. It was new for everybody, like for courts also, for lawyers also, for everybody who was within the legal fraternity. It was a new era and a new area to work in. So uh, there were a lot of propositions which were kind of, there were gray areas and loopholes on which new laws could have been formulated. And I was lucky enough to be with a part of a law firm which was handling NCLT matters then. So I remember uh, we came across an issue where we were, though there was still a gray area, and we were able to settle it down in NCLT, which was whether we can uh, pursue insolvency or CIRP process against a guarantor simultaneously as compared to a principal debtor. Uh, that was a very challenging issue because since it's a very gray area and NCLT being a new fora altogether, you being new to this area, and everybody knew, everybody was trying to figure out as to how to interpret a law and a loophole while there was. So I think the best you get out of a situation is you deal with all perspective. You take out bits and pieces from all what you have learned, whether it's a CPC contract. You read through the clauses in nitty-gritties, and you figure out that okay, this is the interpretation. Your interpretation skills get into picture, and that's when I realized that oh, and okay, to be very candid, I did not think interpretation was that important when we were taught as a subject in college, because you think that where will it where will it be used, and the moment it you go into practice, and that's how I realized that a subject and interpretation, the law is all about interpretation, right? So, and how it comes into play, and that's how I realized that the lawmakers think in a certain way, and it is interpreted in a certain way, and the judge, when the judge starts to ask questions, you have to be on your toes every time, so you have to be doubly prepared, or futuristically prepared. And that I learned from my mentor and my boss at that point of time in my career. And he taught me that when a judge asks you a question, you have to be prepared with two further questions that can be that he will be in a position to ask. So you should be that thorough with your approach that, for example, you can't just simplicity go that this is a very common question and the judge might ask this, and in all probabilities the courts the bench generally ask that kind of question. But what happens next when you have to be so prepared about that, you have to think 10 steps ahead as to what before going and arguing a case. We won that case, though. We had an order in our favor. But that judgment, that complexity and altogetherness, that interpretation, and how to be that prepared, be prepared while arguing in court and in that this kind of a new era and a new fora altogether, was something that I will still keep with me while preparing for anything, like whether be any negotiation or any while arguing for any case. I think that's the underline, or that's the base principle that I took from that case, that you have to be is not just a issue for you. That's not just a matter for you. You have to be prepared for 10 further issues that will follow from one issue, and that one issue can, or when the question asked is from further from those 10 issues, that issue might help somebody else who is sitting in court, and that might help him. There might be a new law which is formulated on that. So it's a very interesting, it was a very interesting matter to work on, because that was the baseline, and that's what I took from that particular case. So though irrespective, we won about it, but then I there was a lot of hard work and complexity involved in that matter altogether. So yeah, that is one of those cases which I think will always be special in terms of how it changed my perspective to approaching a matter altogether.
So it was kind of a learning experience for you.
Absolutely, it was a learning experience, as well as uh, when you sit in court, you realize that there is so much to learn. Irrespective of how many years you have been in the profession, you always sit in court and you realize that oh, I did not think about this while I was arguing. So might be a situation where I'm not sitting, I'm not presenting something, and somebody else comes up with an issue which you might have dealt with, and he or she deals it in a separate way, and you think, oh, I could have done this in my one of these matters. So it, apart from learning experience, it's also an eye opener that you have to be very thorough in irrespective. Like, you can have 10 years of experience, you have 12 15 20 years of experience, but you have to be very thorough with your approach. There are 10 angles that you can approach a matter, and it's all not always that things look simple on paper and you say that oh, I can easily, this can be easily in my favor. Things don't work in court like that. So it's a very yeah, it was very learning, it was a great learning experience for me. But kind of an eye opener that you should not also take things for granted, and just not go by the book, and more go deep dive and see that how things are revolving around you.
Absolutely. And now, moving forward, as we are still in between the pandemic and we're still trying to get out of it. And so the pandemic saw some courts begin moving towards more remote proceedings and availability.
Mhm.
So is this sustainable and a possible way to increase access to justice, in your opinion?
Uh, if you would have asked me, I think this question, a hypothetical question before the pandemic, I think nobody thought that what courts would have worked the way try to work it out post pandemic. But I think we did a fair decent job in terms of providing justice and providing access to the legal system. And I think it's a very sustainable model. If for me, it's a sustainable model. I think both it's a hybrid of physical as well as online facility can work wonders for the legal system in providing access to justice to people. Uh, I we have so where I am coming from is I was born, raised, practiced in parts of Delhi where there you have all the forums possible. So it's not a problem for me to access forums that what today I have to go to a national consumer, or I have to go to an NCLT, or I have to go to Supreme Court, or I have to go to High Court. Everything is there in Delhi. uh, you think about those places where the forums are not that easily available, where only there is a state forum. For national forum, somebody has to travel to Delhi, whether it be litigant or whether it be an advocate. You reach out to a local advocate. So there are 10 things that I think got reduced when pandemic happened and we opened the gates to online systems. So a person now sitting in the remotest of area, or a place or a state where that kind of I think the means are not there. uh, for them it became really easy, because and for us also, obviously I'm not saying that it was not easy for us, it became also easy for us. The wait time that we used to spend in courts, that got visibly reduced. We were able to focus on other matters as well. Simultaneously we were able to give better access and time to our clients and focus on drafting in a timely manner, because half the time when you wait in court you kind of compromise on the drafting timeline. That's a separate thing. But the access, what I was coming from, going again back to that thread where I left, access to people who do not have the means. Now, for a litigant who has to travel from, for example, south to Supreme Court, it's a difficult process from him altogether. He does not know. So that entire process, the accessibility is very was something which we did not realize that we could have done it. It was a difficult process then, but I think it is sustainable if we have to do it. Again, if we continue with it. A hybrid model can be more than it can work wonders in my opinion. It can work wonders for providing access and access to justice, or any any legal issue for that matter. People, I have come across clients who have come and told me for a legal hearing that they did not the transparency with which they were able to see, because courts are sometimes so crowded, and you can't really go the client from reaching from understanding from a client perspective. He sits in court or might not have the not be able to hear as to what the judge is saying at that point of time, not be able to respond properly, and come out of the court and say, okay, what happened, what is to be done next, because I did not understand what happened in court. That changed drastically when the client is sitting in the hearing altogether. They are only the limited parties to the hearing. He also understand the transparency, also understand, he understands what the court wants. He is better able to assist the court. So though I will not say that there have not been problems, there have been problems where the client or the advocate were not serious about how to appear in court. There is a decorum till the time there has to be a balance that okay, I'm giving you this means, but that does not mean that you have to misuse it in a certain way. So there has to be that decorum, and the court, and I don't think the court or the bench has ever said that we are not okay with physical with online hearings. Till the time you maintain that decorum, I am more than happy, because it saves my times as well. And if and with the new chief justice being in the picture, he's more than litigant friendly. So he thinks about how the problems of the litigant by the end of the day. it can be, it's a very good model. As per it saves a lot of time. You do e-filing, you do everything in time, but just that, what, if you had the right means at the right time. So it's basically that.
I completely understand. So that's actually, the beauty of technology. So as you said that, it's really difficult for anyone to travel from any part of India, especially, coming to Delhi for hearings and everything, maybe in the Supreme Court or maybe High Court. So it's really kind of a task. So yes, it is actually really helping us for the past 2 years now. And yeah,
I
now
hope it helps. It does
I would
help
like to
with
ask
physical
you.
hearing starting though. I hope
Yeah,
that the hybrid continues. So let's see.
absolutely. I wish the same. And now, how do you rate the current legal system drive towards increasing access to justice? Is there a tangible movement in closing the justice gap?
There is a tangible moment. I think with technology now, uh, it's just commendable. Like I couldn't even imagine like post pandemic and with everything being so physically driven that what, you have to appear in court, the parties have to appear in court, or you're not filing 10 things for doing all the paperwork, though the paperwork is still required. But then the way we approached it and the time in which we approached the legal system, it was formulated within, and the crucial time it was. Uh, I think we have been able to somewhere down the line, majority of it, we have been able to provide access to the common general public in a short span. And I think we have been able to give better access to justice in combination with the technology. So there has been, uh, I think, if I have to go and think about it, I think it's the access is way better as compared to what was if when things were purely physical. So yeah, so for me, I still advocate vouch for hybrid model, though physical, you can't absolutely do away with physical hearings, but the technology also has to play a major role now in giving easy access to justice and what approach to clients, because our fraternity is all driven by helping people by the end of the day. You, or what, in forms of corporate or your normal person, it's all about the other person is able to understand. It's not a task for them to approach, or what, most of the people, it's a very common saying that what, I don't want to go to court because it's something that I am not able to understand, it's difficult, there is no transparency. So that transparency is very important now, and I think that has kicked in very well. People have also started to understand that what, we can understand law, it's transparent, I can understand, I can question my lawyer after a point of time that what, this is what the court asked, what does this mean. Most of the time that access was not available at that point of time. So there has been a significant shift, and in compared to what, how it was preceded, or perceived in pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, there is a remarkable shift, and I'm happy for it. So yeah.
Thank you for explaining that really well. And now I would like to ask, like, in the era of legal technology, what are the most commonly used tools for you?
Wi-Fi, internet. These are the major tools that, and a computer. So these were just on a lighter note. I'm just saying, but the tools are obviously during the pandemic were these three. Apart from that, we significantly rely on judgments. We rely on high court website, different websites. Now the websites have been done so well that what, you don't have to run around in terms of finding a certified copy, or what, the copy of the judgment was not uploaded. And it's for me, the tools is high court websites, which are very well done, like where you get good judgments from it. You have Manupatra, you have SEC. For me, these are the basic tools, these are the sacrosanct of any, for any lawyer. This is for me, that those are the constitutions by the end of the day, in order for me to arrive, or what, the basic tools that in order to formulate a matter or research for a matter. So yeah, these have been there. Apart from high court websites, other third party websites like pro vakil is there, which helps us in order to just keep a tab of the case status and everything. Which somewhere down the line, in the time of pandemic, there was a problem, but then third parties apps like these have made our lives pretty easy and convenient in terms of handling the matter in a more efficient way. So yeah, these were the basic tools for me. That's how we go about it. And books are always there. So since you have a library, you really like post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, the books have been a lifesaver in terms of anything and everything. So yeah.
Exactly. And apart from that, I mean, I'm just asking you this. I mean, this is really not related here, but apart from the legal books, so is there anything else you actually like to read? Is there
I read
anything
all the
else?
time. I like reading judgments because that's what I've been taught. From internship, we have just given judgments. He is so my I remember, and it's a worldwide. I will not say worldwide phenomena, but then with me it was with every uh, job, or every place that I worked, and I follow that with my juniors as well in the profession, or where they say and they come up and ask what should we read. I'm like, read this judgment. Like, the judgments is everything. But apart from that, I like reading books on foreign policy. I like reading books on economics. Right now I'm reading a book called Power Shift, which tells me about the dynamics and diplomacy between India and China. So these kind of books. So yeah, so this is what I like to read, and whenever I get time from judgment, so this is what I read.
All right. I was, actually thinking that you'll be saying something about the fiction and non-fiction books.
Absolutely no fan of fiction. Like, I think I think that's a problem with law by the end of the day. So I think you have been molded in certain way that you can't. Like, at least I can say for myself, I can't relate to fiction after a point of time, because you think I can't relate to this. So it's better that what you by default tend to go to something which you can relate. And for me, I can relate to more on foreign policy, diplomacy, what is happening in the world, and how is this happening. So, and since I come from a background, my father has a doctorate in economics, so we talk about that. So that's how I think somewhere down the line, since childhood, that kind of was there, that a little bit inclination was there towards economics, and that's how it came for me.
All right. So yeah, I I completely understand. So now, as we all know, that time is money in any profession, and in legal, it's most of all. So how do you ensure to make the best use of time as a lawyer?
Okay, that's subjective. We get time half of the time, because definitely time is money. So for me, it's important that the matter that I'm approaching, or what, I'll just give you an instance that for me, I don't wait when I'm waiting for a matter. I don't just wait or prepare, just wait. What in that meantime, I sit in the bar, make use of that time, and sit and make work on a certain kind of draft. Uh, it's a very complicated question, honestly, to answer. That's the most difficult question, honestly, to answer. That time is money, and how do you determine it? Uh, it's honestly, I don't have an answer to this. So for me, if I have to pinpoint to a uh, certain instance where I can say that, uh, just be just make use and just be fully focused in terms of what you're doing. So that time that you even if you're spending 5 minutes, just be there. That's just, if you are advising your client, just be there and like be thorough in terms of what you are saying at that point of time, because the more amount you can deal with more people, or what, you can do so much better in terms of your growth, your profession's growth, if if you just concentrate and be focused in terms of time. But definitely money is a major factor. So I'm not ruling out money in terms of my monetary incentives, because the more time you're more focused, it's equally proportion to the monetary incentives as well. uh, but yeah, I think that's how I spend my time. Yeah, so that is that for me. I generally don't have an honest answer to that, or what, a more detailed answer to that. uh but yeah, that's how I utilize my time.
Thank you so much for sharing such great insight with us. And we look forward to having a chat with you again in the future on some other trending topics in the international legal space. And for our viewers, if you like this chat with Nishtha Sikroria, please like and share this video as much as you can. And also subscribe to Clickaway Creators YouTube channel to appreciate what we do. And you have more coming from the legal space. So this is Nikhil for Let's Talk World signing off.